Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Justina and here I like to make, create, and inspire fun art things with you through my DIYs. Now as you see by today's title and clicking on today's video, it is halfway to Halloween, and what is better than celebrating by creating some spooky good DIYs for the season. Not only can these DIYs be used at Halloween, it's also a Spring-O-Ween or an Easterween DIY video also, meaning if you are a spooky person like myself and like all spooky creepy things throughout the whole year, these DIYs are just for you. I had a blast making each and every one of them, and I really hope that you enjoy. But before we get started, if you are new here and you haven't yet subscribed, I hope you do that today. All you have to do is click on that big red subscribe button down below. It is totally free, but don't forget to click on the bell notification so that YouTube can always notify you every time I upload a new video. Plus, we would love to have you here, part of our virtual art family. If you are already a subscriber, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate each and every one of you taking the time out of your busy schedule and watching this video with me. But don't forget to do all of the YouTubey things down below, which is like, comment, and share it to at least one friend. It really does help out my channel. Now, with all that being said, let's just jump right into it and let's art today. This DIY is super quick and easy and really simple to do. All you're going to need is a skull that I have here from Dollar Tree. I purchased this in their Halloween section around Halloween time. It is $1.25, but I usually stock up every season, so I have plenty, and I'm pretty sure you'll have one or two in your Halloween decoration as well. The next step I'm going to do is paint my skull completely in white. This is my Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White, and I do give it about 2 coats of paint. I just added it to places where it needed a little bit more and then waited for that to fully dry. Once I was done painting my skull, it is now time to get a candlestick, and I had already painted mine beforehand, and I am going to place it right underneath my skull's chin. Now you can use any type of glue that you want. I am just using hot glue for my video purposes, and sometimes I like to reuse things, so I'm just using hot glue. Hot glue is not a permanent hold, so if you want something more permanent, I suggest using some super glue or E6000. I just place some all around the rim, place my skull right on top, and press down until it dried. Next, from Dollar Tree, I have this accessory kit. It was around their Easter supplies. I'm pretty sure if you go look right now, there might be a couple left at your Dollar Tree. Once again, this was $1.25, and I'm removing the bunny's ears from it. Now, I thought this would fit around it perfectly, but the headband was a little bit too long, so I wanted to cut it down. I'm just using a regular pair of scissors and just cutting off a little bit and removing that tag. Now, I was going for a monochromatic look, but if you do not like that style, you can always change it up and paint your skull and your candlestick a different color. But since I had the white bunny ears, I wanted to paint everything white as well. Now, to attach my bunny ears, once again, I am using my hot glue, and I'm just adding a nice dollop of that right underneath the headband and pressing down on top of my skull. One thing that I really like about that accessory set, it came with 3 different pieces. So it has the bunny ears, the bow, and the bunny tail. I'm just going to use the bow. I cut off the elastic band, pull it through so that I can now hot glue that bow right under our skull's chin. Now, in hindsight, I should have glued it on the candlestick, but I kind of wanted it to look like a little bow tie right underneath its neck, so that's why I hot glued it there, and I held it until it was dry. Then when I flipped it over, I noticed that some of my candlestick was not painted, so I did add another coat of paint right there. But once I was completed with that, that is our first DIY. Like I mentioned before, this DIY was super easy, very affordable to do, and only took minutes to make. All you really needed was 3 pieces, which was the skull, the candlestick, and that little accessory set, and you have the cutest little skull stand that I absolutely love. For this DIY, it is super simple and easy to do. We're going to make some Halloween peeps. Now, the way I made my peeps was tracing out this $5 peep container set on a piece of foam with a permanent marker, and now I am going to cut it out using my wood burning tool. If you have been following my channel, I did this DIY before, but I created just some Easter peeps, and if you want a more in-depth detailed on how I did those, I will link that video here and in the description box down below. Now, as you see here, I'm taking my wood burning tool and I'm cutting out those little bunnies. I first cut them out one at a time so that it is easier to handle when I cut them out thoroughly. Now I'm taking that wood burning tool and I'm going around the edges where I marked it out with that permanent marker and making sure to go really slowly. Now this video is sped up so that you don't have to watch it in slow motion, but I am taking my time and I'm going into little sections. That way I have a really nice smooth edge when it's all cut out. Then I will continue cutting the rest of my bunnies out, which is 4 in total. For my first 2 bunnies, I want to make them look like wafer cookies, and I've done this before around Christmas time. If you want to see that video, I'll make sure to link it here and in the description box below. But I'm taking my hot glue gun and my really thin tip and I'm going really slowly to make these diagonal lines. Now they're not perfect by no means, but I really try to do my best and try to make them as straight and evenly spaced as possible. I really take my time because I don't want really heavy globs of hot glue. I really want a long consistent line, and then once I get to the end, I do wipe off my tip at the very edge so that it doesn't have too much of those strings. After I have those lines completely done and they are completely dry, I then flip it over and go the opposite direction, but still trying to make them as evenly spaced as possible. I will continue this until the whole bunny is covered in those lines. I did do this for the second bunny as well and waited for them to completely dry. Now that they are completely dry, it is now time to paint them, and I am using my apple barrel satin paint in the color of outrageous orange. I just place the paint right on top of the bunny, and I do place a lot of it. I take a regular paintbrush and paint it on. Now some of the paint will get a little bit thick in some areas, and all you need to do is just take your paintbrush and just slide it out of there and add it to a dry spot. And then once I was done painting this orange bunny, I do place it to the side so that we can paint our second bunny, which is going to be in purple. Now I do paint the whole entire bunny, that is the front, the back, and the sides, to make sure that everything is well incorporated. After my bunnies were completely dry, they look like this and they are super adorable as is, but I do want to add a little face to my little peeps here. Now I know originally the color of the Peeps 3 dots is about a light brown, but I wanted this to really be seen, so I'm using black acrylic paint. Now at first I thought I was just going to make those 3 dots, but then I remembered this is really halfway to Halloween and I want them a little bit more Halloweenish, so I changed the eyes into triangles so it looks more like a jack-o'-lantern peep instead of just a regular one. I did leave the mouth a circle, and then I did the exact same thing for the purple one. And once they had time to completely dry, that completes our first half of this DIY. These are super adorable and I absolutely love them, and I want to make more, but like I mentioned before, these are perfect for Easter but also Halloween. Now as I was finishing those up, I realized I had 2 more bunnies and I really wanted to use them and have them as a whole collection set. So for this one, I'm adding black acrylic paint to both of our bunnies. Once again, I am painting both sides, which is the front, the back, and the sides of it, so everything looks nice and completed. After our peeps had time to completely dry, I'm going in with a rounded tipped paintbrush and my Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White, and I'm making these little dots. Then I'm connecting those little dots with a little line and then a longer line in the middle, and as you see here, it looks like a little bone. I continued that pattern on to the second ear, and I'm just creating those dots and trying to connect everything together. I do give it about 2 coats of paint. Once I was done with the ears, I then moved down to the belly of the the bunny here, and I'm making a long line for the rib cage. Then I'm just adding 3 lines, kind of like a little smile, and making sure to make them as evenly as possible, and then I do the same thing for the other side. Lastly, I wanted to give my bunny a skeleton nose, so I just made a little triangle and filled it in. Here are our little skeleton peeps, and I absolutely love them both, and they turned out better than expected, and this would look super cute in your kitchen. Now, I absolutely love them all together. As you see here, they were easy to do, very affordable, and it only really took minutes to make. The longest process, I think, in this DIY was waiting for the paint to dry, but I absolutely loved how these turned out. Can't have an Easterween video without some Easter eggs, so I purchased mine from Dollar General. You get 20 for $2, and I thought that was a good price for the size of the egg. Now, there are so many eggs that you can get at Dollar Tree if you want to, but I want to show you 3 different ways that I decorated these eggs. The first one is taking my hot glue gun, as you see here, and I'm going to create like a poison apple effect. I started off with the eyes, and then I'm adding the little squiggles on the bottom as if the poison was dripping down the egg, and then I will continue on the other side. Then I will fill up the whole entire egg that we made the squiggles on with the hot glue. Now, I am using a lower temperature hot glue, but either one works fine. I did use my hot one later on. It did not melt the plastic, but be very careful so you don't burn your fingers. After the glue had time to completely dry, it is now time to paint it. Now, you can paint your poison egg however you want, but I'm painting mine with black acrylic paint, and I'm making sure just to paint the hot glue. I am going in all different types of directions and trying to make sure I don't hit the Easter egg, but if I did, it is super easy to get off. All I did was take a toothpick and scrape it, but after the paint had time to dry, these are our poison Easter eggs, which are absolutely adorable. I absolutely love them. Now, you can make as much as you want. I just made 3 of each because I'm making 3 sets of different types of Easter eggs, just to give you a variety of different types of ways that you can decorate for the spooky spring season. For our next set of 3, I am painting it with my black acrylic paint. Now, you can always take these outside and spray paint it, and I do want to suggest if you do paint it using acrylic paint, you probably want to sand it just a little so that the paint has an easier time to adhere down to that slick plastic. Nonetheless, it still works out perfectly. After I had a couple of coats of that black acrylic paint on there and they were dried, I want to just add some stickers. I've had these stickers for a couple of years now. I purchased them, or I received them from Temu, and all I am doing is adding it right onto our little Easter egg. Now, as you saw there, when I pulled it up, some of the paint did come off, and that's because I didn't prep it properly, but I just added it right back on and it covered that little spot. And then I continue adding the stickers on. You can add as many or as few as you want, but that completes this set of Easter eggs. Once again, this was super easy and very affordable to do. You just need a couple of stickers and some black acrylic paint, and these little eggs truly make a statement. And for our last set of eggs, once again, I painted them with black acrylic paint, and then I have some of these rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree. Now, I had these for a couple of years, but Dollar Tree has so many different types of rub-on transfers. As you see here, I'm just cutting them down so that it's easier to work with, and I'm going to start making a collage with the rub-on transfers. Now, once again, you need to prep your egg so that the rub-on transfer adheres down onto the egg. I did not do that at first, as you will see here. So I started rubbing it onto the acrylic paint. However, it just sticks to the acrylic paint and then it pulls it off of the egg. So what I did next was add some Mod Podge right on top of it so that it will seal in the black acrylic paint. See, as you see there, it does not stick. I'm just taking a paintbrush, dipping it into my Mod Podge and adding a nice layer, waiting for them to completely dry, and then add on your rub-on transfers. Now, there's still a little bit of wiggle room. For some reason, the Mod Podge wanted to come up as well, but after I stuck on my rub-on transfer, I gave it a little rub with a popsicle stick and my finger, and then I pulled off the paper that is on top, and it comes off nicely. Anywhere that I had a bubble, all I did was push it down and it worked fine. I will continue adding all of those rub-on transfers all around my egg to make it look really vintage and old, and I will do that for all 3 eggs. This is time consuming, but the end product is really awesome. Even though these eggs are very time consuming, they are well worth it. I absolutely loved how they turned out. They are very old and vintage looking, which is really nice. It's not so much Halloween in your face, but it is just enough to really bring in that spooky vibe for the Spring-O-Ween season. Here are all the eggs in a little glass plate that I have, and I just think they absolutely are adorable all together, and it just brings a pop of color for our little Easterween slash Springween slash halfway to Halloween DIYs. For this DIY, I have a long canvas and I am going to make a 3D painting. I thought about this after finding this mask in my crafting stash. I purchased this mask from the 99-cent store a couple years ago when we had a 99-cent store. I'm gonna miss that store. But while I was looking through it, my spouse and I were talking, and every time we think about something spooky for Easter, they always bring up the movie Donnie Darko, which is a sci-fi thriller back in the early 2000s. I've only seen it once, but it is one of those movies that is hard to forget because it really makes you think. Now, as you see here, I am tracing on the skull onto my canvas so that I know where to place the mask later on. Next, I'm drawing a pair of rabbit ears, and I'm just free drawing this. I am using a reference on my computer. I am drawing the character Frank from the movie Donnie Darko. It is a demonic looking rabbit, and it really just tells him that the world is going to end throughout the whole movie, and you really have to think if it is ending or if it's a mental illness or just some strange reality going on. Let me know down in the comments if you also seen that movie. I would really love to know. Now, as you see here, I'm starting to paint the background of my canvas, and I'm going in with a really light blue. Once again, I am just using my basic acrylic paint. This is apple barrel paint with a satin finish, and I'm just going in an up and down motion, trying to get like a sunburst effect behind the bunny here. Now, I did look up references, and the cover to the Donnie Darko movie always had like a blue background to it, so that is why I'm using blue. But if you are wanting to create this also, you can always change up the colors for your painting. I do give everything about 2 coats, but while it is still wet, I like to add my next color so that the blending will be easier, and it tends to give a really cool effect. I am going in with our next color, which is just a basic blue color, and once again, like I said, I am blending it in with the lighter blue. So to help me get that effect that I'm going for, I will use the dark blue and then spread it out as much as possible, then go in with my dirty brush and add the light blue right on top of it and continue to do so. After I have the background where I like it, this is how it turned out, and now I am going to just block in the head and the ears. I'm using the same light blue that we started off with. That is just because I liked my whole canvas to be painted, even though we're not going to see this later on. It just gives me a visual to help me see where all of my pieces go. With that same blue and some gray, I am dabbing it on the shoulder area of our bunny here just to get the fur part of his costume started. I will add more layers on top of it to really get the effect that I'm going for. But after that was done, I wanted to create the ears. Now for this 3D painting, I want to make the ears and the face stand out off of the painting, and to do so I'm using tin foil. As you saw there, I just rolled it onto itself and then added another piece right on top of it, and as you see here, I'm just trying my best to mold a ear out of that aluminum foil. This does take a little bit of time, but you just have to keep playing with it until you get the ear that you want. And I just pressed down and made sure that it was the right shape that I was going for. I did the exact same thing for the second ear, and after I have the shapes where I like it, I'm using my hot glue gun. Now, in hindsight, hot glue and aluminum foil doesn't really mix, but I did add a lot, and I'm going to add clay on top of this so it does hold up. But I do suggest even adding an extra stronger glue like E6000 or super glue to make sure that this doesn't fall apart later on. After I have my ears glued on, next I wanted to add these foam eggs to the eyes, because in the reference that I was looking for, his eyes do tend to bulge out, and these eggs were the perfect size for our eyes here. I am hot gluing them down onto the mask and holding it until it was completely dry. Next, I wanted to add some teeth to the mask because in the reference they do have big teeth, so I found these pumpkin teeth in my crafting stash and I just cut them down to size, and I'm hot gluing it right onto the mask. Now that I have my mask prepped, it is now time to attach it down to the painting. Once again, I am using my hot glue gun, but I'm adding a bunch of it so that the mask can adhere down to the canvas. Once again, I do suggest using a little bit of a stronger glue like super glue or E6000 for a more permanent hold. Next, as you see here, I'm going in with my air dry clay, and I just grabbed a little bit, rolled it into a ball, adding a little bit of water and really working it. My air dry clay is a little bit old. I believe I want to say it's almost about 3 years old, and it's starting to really show. So as you see here, I just made a little flat surface, place it on my table, and now I took a paint bottle and I'm starting to roll it out. I wasn't going to look for a rolling pin because I don't know where it's at, but this works just fine. I'm just trying to make it as nice and smooth as possible so that I can add it to my ears. Now I wanted to work in sections, so I'm just cutting a little strip off using an X-Acto knife, and then I will lift that up and place it onto my ears. Now you want it to be pliable, so you don't want it too thick or too thin, so I made it that thick and it seemed to work just fine for me. I added it right on top of that tinfoil ear, and I'm just pressing down. This does take some time and you do have to play with it to get the desired look that you're going for, but it did turn out really cute. And you're going to continue this about 6 billion more times depending on how big of sections you're working with until both ears are completely covered. Now you can use your hands, you can use a popsicle stick. I went back and forth and just smoothed it out to the best of my ability. I did add water to some sections to really make it nice and smooth, and then I either added or took away clay from sections that really needed it or didn't need it. After I was done sculpting the ears, it is now time to paint. Now I am going to paint everything. I started off with the eyes and the teeth using my Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White, and I do give everything about 2 coats of paint so that everything is nice and opaque, and I will go back later on and add more details. Next I will paint the mask, and my primary colors for the mask is gray, white, and black, and I continue to mix all 3 colors to make different types of hues because ultimately I believe the mask in the movie was metal, and I wanted to replicate that as best as I can with the paint. Now I did add more black to shadow areas, and then I do add white to more highlighted areas, but I continue to paint the whole entire mask. I also start painting more of the shoulders to really get more of a blended look and make everything cohesive, and then I also start painting the ears. Now my ears were still technically wet. You need to let the air dry clay dry for at least 20 to 48 hours. I did not because I was on a time crunch. However, it still worked out pretty good, but after I was done painting, that completes this DIY. I absolutely had a blast making this DIY, and I just couldn't stop laughing because from afar, it does look a little bit like a Frank from the movie, but up close, he just looks like a goofy, creepy bunny. I did give it to my spouse and they absolutely loved it. They too also started giggling at how funny this bunny turned out. Alright friends, that completes today's DIYs for you. I had a blast making each and every one of these, and it was really fun to make something spooky in the springtime for my Easterween collection. I had a blast, but I would love to know which one was your favorite down in the comment section below. And while you're down there, don't forget to check out my other socials. I do have a Facebook and Instagram and now a Patreon page that if you become a member, there are some really good benefits that you can receive monthly. I also want to give a shout out to my Patreons that did sign up. Thank you so much for being here and becoming a member. If you want to check that out, all of those links will be down in the description box below. Remember friends, if you're new here and you haven't yet subscribed, I hope you do that today. All you have to do is click on that big red subscribe button down below. It is totally free, but don't forget to click on the bell notification so YouTube can always notify you every time I upload a new video. Plus, we would love to have you here, part of our virtual art family. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your busy schedule to watch today's video. I really hope you enjoy, but don't forget to do all of the YouTube things down below, which is like, comment, and share it to at least one friend. It really does help out my channel. I really hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you again for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one.